President Emmanuel Macron says wildfires raging near Bordeaux are the most severe facing France since the Second World War. He has promised to commit every available resource to contain the flames. But time is running out. Another heatwave is setting in, with temperatures forecast to reach close to 40 degrees this week, and no rain on the horizon until Friday at the earliest. The fire close to Bordeaux didn't gain ground overnight, but remains unpredictable and dangerous. So this here is a live tracker of the fire provided by European authorities. The flames are only about 9 miles or 15 kilometers from the city's outskirts. Now, across the border in Spain, residents living in towns near Madrid are watching on with fear, with more extreme heat threatening to complicate efforts to control the blaze burning around 31 miles or 50 kilometers west of the capital. More than 360,000 people have been evacuated from the affected parts of Spain and France. Our correspondent Gironde and Landes sent us this report from the Gironde region near Bordeaux.
For days, wildfires have raged in the southwest of France. For weary firefighters here, these Canadian aircraft provide welcome relief.
These are very fast. Fire very fast.
Most towns and villages in this area are almost deserted. The blaze now burns within 10 miles of the city of Bordeaux.
The fires are raging in this rural area, flames occasionally leaping into the air. You may be able to see them several feet into the air, thick black smoke rising as well, sticking in the back of your throat.
Wildfires aren't uncommon in this area near Bordeaux, where Mererid, from Wales originally, has lived for the past 16 years.
And we're going to take the kids and move further north, out of reach of the smoke and the polluted air, or as far as we can. We're lucky enough to have somewhere where we can go, so that we just get, especially the kids, just get them away and get them to some cleaner air.
French President Emmanuel Macron has today been meeting the teams fighting the flames, which could take months to put out.
We must understand we are facing a completely unprecedented wildfire. The situation we are dealing with today is the most severe we've ever recorded, the toughest since the Second World War.
Across the border in Spain too, the situation is dire. What's been called the biggest wildfire in the region's history burns near Madrid. There's no shortage of dry vegetation for it to consume, thanks to successive heat waves after a wet winter. Today, however, mostly thanks to the weather, the situation has improved, say officials. The pace of the flames have slowed in Valencia, but as you can see, the fires are still very much active, and the government says the next 2 days will be crucial on whether they can be brought under control.
This is the new reality. Summers are becoming increasingly difficult, destructive and therefore deadly.
In Spain, as in France, hot, dry weather is forecast for the coming days. The fear here is that an already difficult situation could become catastrophic.
That was the BBC's Gironde and Landes reporting there. Well, let's go live to Paris now and speak to our correspondent Hugh Schofield. And Hugh, today is important for firefighters there ahead of temperatures rising later on Thursday.
Yeah, there's been a window of 36, 48 hours since Sunday evening in which firefighters have been able to, if not get the upper hand, at least stop the progress of the fire. I mean, very noticeably, what we're not seeing now are those huge billowing clouds which were so cataclysmic and apocalyptic that we saw on Saturday, Sunday. Now it's still out of control in the sense that they don't know what's going to happen. There are embers burning, smouldering, small fires here, there, everywhere, which could, if the conditions worsen, turn once again into a great big conflagration. But right now, it's not that kind of conflagration that we saw before. So the task is to stop it returning to that state. That's why for the last 36 hours, they've been using this window to create fire breaks. That means clearing big swathes of paths through the forest so that the fire won't leap from A to B, clearing brush and so on, in the hope that when there are these fires, they can be contained. There will be more fires. It will keep cropping up because the smouldering embers are in rich territory for new outbreaks. It's dry, it's tinder dry, there's embers everywhere. But the hope is that they will be able to douse these new outbreaks as quickly as possible in order to prevent it all coming together and being whipped up into another firestorm like we saw earlier on.
Hugh, thank you. That's BBC's Hugh Schofield in Paris there. Well, let's now speak to British holidaymaker Grant Thomas, who evacuated Cap Ferret with his family last week and is now safe in Ile-de-Ré near La Rochelle. Thank you for joining us on BBC News. So first of all, just describe your evacuation for us, because we can look at some pictures that you sent us, which showed you driving right past the fires.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning, Catherine. The evacuation was quite a intense process. We were rudely awoken, if that's the right terminology, suddenly at about 2:45 in the morning by the emergency evacuation service in French. We immediately packed the car. It was quite eerie. It was dark. There was a bit of smoke smell in the air. And there were other families also evacuating their houses at the same time. And as you saw from the pictures, then we drove up the sort of D106, which is the main route out of Cap Ferret towards Bordeaux. And as we turned the corner near Léger, which is one of the towns that was badly hit by the fire, we obviously saw these flames in the sort of on the side of the car as we drove past on the left-hand side. So quite intense, but I must say the evacuation worked for us relatively well, and we were kind of through the fire by about 4:30 in the morning and heading away to safety.
And just tell us about the days before. How did you start to realise that the fire was getting closer and closer to you and your family?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we noticed the first evidence of the fire on Wednesday afternoon. We were coming off the beach on the Atlantic side, and there was this column of grey smoke in the distance, and we immediately assessed that was some sort of wildfire of some description. But it really sort of hit home on Thursday when we went to the basin side, the other beach on the other side of the headland. And the column had turned into essentially a cloud, probably 4 or 5 times as wide. And we started really listening to social media and looking at Facebook, and we realized very quickly that this was more than just a small forest fire.
And tell us about how people in the area were affected, families and businesses as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, when we sort of realized it was getting bad on Thursday afternoon, we kind of walked back to our town, and it was very clear immediately that it was quiet. People had obviously got wind of the challenge, and certainly the locals had, I think, left in many cases, being as there's only one road out of that particular part of France. So they evacuated quite quickly. So it was eerie, it was quiet. There were a few people still around, but certainly not as busy as it was. There was smoke in the air, as I think some of your correspondents have described, and there was also ash falling from the sky across our property. So it was a kind of a weird feeling, Catherine, if I'm honest.
Grant, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. That's Grant Thomas speaking to us from Ile-de-Ré near La Rochelle.